Hello and welcome back to 90 Day Dental Day 46. So we're down to the second half of this lovely programme, and we're going to kick it off with another brand new topic today, a two-parter on dental materials. We've got the lovely Will Palin from University of Birmingham joining us to discuss some really important topics. So we're going to start today with an update on dental materials and dental material science, which I think a lot of us probably need, as it's been a while since we've done it. And then we'll continue and kick that off with more modern materials and the exciting stuff that's going on in the dental world at the moment in the second part of tomorrow. Take it away, Will.
There are very few aspects of dentistry that do not rely on materials, and the science of dental materials is arguably the most important subject that a dental practitioner should learn. I suppose I would say that, I'm a little bit biased. But as you can imagine, there's a huge variety of different material types, combinations of different materials, design and processing that you use on a day-to-day basis. And the mechanical, physical and chemical properties of those materials as structured systems, including both bulk, surface properties at different scales, so that might be molecular, micro or macroscopic levels, and also the interaction of those materials with the biological environment, are so critical to the performance of the dental materials that you use. So an underlying foundation in understanding those factors that determine success in situ and the application of dental materials is incredibly important. And in fact, many dental students that I've taught in Birmingham often say to me that they wish they had listened a little bit more in my lectures, and certainly now fully understand the importance of this subject area. The integration of materials chemistry's key properties alongside with clinical training is also key in my opinion, and that's something that we deliver at the University of Birmingham. So when they are training in the Phantom Head, they will have complimentary lectures from me and my staff that actually teach them the underlying key factors associated with the materials chemistry, the properties of the material, and how that links with optimizing the placement of those materials or use of those materials in order to optimize clinical performance. So I thought I'd give you a brief overview of what happens at the University of Birmingham Dental School in terms of the research and how dental materials integrates into that. So University of Birmingham School of Dentistry, we have two overarching themes which provide critical mass in terms of expertise, grant funding and research personnel, and have productive collaborations both regionally, nationally and internationally. So these are split into two themes: clinical and experimental oral sciences and oral regeneration and rehabilitation sciences. So these areas really encompass our research, and our teams operate within these theme areas and collaborate across theme areas as well. We've had a number of new research groups pop up over the last few years in biophotonics, nanotechnology, and intelligent imaging, and these have all attracted Research Council and industry funding. Our successful fundamental research then crosses over to translation and the impact that has on public health, not only within dentistry but in wider medical fields as well. So in terms of regenerative and rehabilitation sciences that are related to dentistry, we have four main fields. We are encompassed in a successful and internationally renowned biomaterials research group. So this stretches outside of dentistry itself. This ranges from dental implant and bone materials, where we look at the development of biomedical materials for orthopedic use, and other technologies such as surface modifications of biomaterials and implants to enhance biological compatibility. More specifically, materials development for dental application, and with the phase down of dental silver amalgam, we're very interested in developing viable alternatives that are required. These are not only materials that fill a gap in terms of a restorative process, but actually interact and integrate with the tissue that they are surrounding, so the biological interaction for enhanced tissue integration. In terms of pulp, bone and mucosal tissue engineering, the use of relevant materials for engineering rehabilitation and regeneration of hard and soft tissue. So we use inorganic materials such as calcium phosphates and other organics such as resorbable hydrogel materials that may act as useful scaffolds. One relatively new area is actually using the energy from light, not in the sense of cross-linking polymer materials as your white filling materials would do, but also translating our knowledge in that area for the development of novel technologies for phototherapy, so that have a beneficial effect on the biological environment. So a little bit more detail on that, and again narrowing down even further in terms of development of dental materials. We are very interested in the use of or harnessing light energy for various processes that we might be able to use within dentistry and beyond. So of course, our research group in dental materials science are mainly interested in polymer composite development. So producing light curable materials that you are used to using day in, day out, but adjusting the chemistry in order to create materials that are actually bioactive. So they help in remodeling tooth and bone tissue whilst restoring the cavity. We're also interested in developing environmentally triggered so-called smart biomaterials. So these are materials that would deliver antimicrobial or anti-inflammatory products as preventative or interceptive actions to manage oral disease. So these materials will be activated by environmental factors that are pertinent to, for example, periodontal disease or dental caries activity, that then stimulate the breakdown of artificially synthesized proteins, peptides, and then would smart release, in response to that environmental condition, the antimicrobial inflammatory agents. So this happens in a time of need in order to try and modify the microbial community composition. This means that then we have an intelligent material, if you like, that will release these antimicrobial agents at the time of need, rather than prescription of antibiotics, and obviously the problems associated with that in terms of antimicrobial resistance and so forth. So going back to resin composites, the material is obviously very important, but if we have a material that is photoactive, it requires light energy in order to polymerize the material, in order to harden the material, then the light itself is also very, very important. So we also measure the photophysics of light delivery, light parameters, such as the optics that are used to deliver light to the material, the irradiance profiles, the importance of power and energy that you deliver in order to optimize the cure of dental polymer composite materials. And then, as I mentioned previously, we've translated all of that knowledge and expertise, and a relatively new research group looks at harnessing light energy in order to develop novel devices for cheap and effective decontamination or controlling bacterial load, and the potential for accelerated wound repair using specific wavelengths of light. And this is had a lot of interest from people like the Ministry of Defence, who could perceivably use these types of devices for soldiers on the front line in order to prevent infection, death of tissue and so forth. And we're now looking at using this type of technology within dentistry as well. So that gives a brief overview of what we do at the University of Birmingham in terms of developing new materials. And of course, it's really important to understand what we do have and what you do use on a day-to-day basis, as well as emerging technologies. And unfortunately, materials always fail. There aren't materials that will last forever. And I guess really it's a dentist's job to optimize the performance of a material itself. And that's dependent on appropriate material selection, so using the right material for the right job. And in order to be able to do that, then of course you need to have a basic understanding, an underlying understanding of the knowledge of material properties. Then of course combined with optimum restoration design that complements the use of that material is also very important, and how that material will interact with the biological environment itself. And this is why it's very important to develop or think about materials that don't just fill the gap. They interact with the biological environment that they are placed in, and augment that particular restoration, so make it better than it was before. And then of course some of the materials will have disadvantages in terms of whether they are carrier static or not. Currently there are potential problems with resin-based composites in high caries risk patients, because they do not exhibit as good of carrier static properties as, say, something like a silver amalgam. So there is a lot of work currently trying to develop these types of materials which have better antimicrobial properties. And the final point really for this introductory summary is to highlight the fact that dental materials, or dental material science, is a rapidly changing subject. So this quite crude diagram here represents, or is trying to represent, the exponential increase in the number of materials that are available to you over the last 100 years or so. And if you go back 120 years, there were only a handful of materials that were really used by dentists, and over the last century that has exponentially grown. And this example is by no means exhaustive. It gives you an idea of some of the technologies that have been introduced. I think what you have to be careful of, though, is actually trying to identify whether a so-called new material is actually any significant step change. Dental material companies obviously need to make profit, and the market is very aggressive. Their margins are very small, so they heavily market these so-called new materials, which are good, but may not really be any different to what already exists. And some examples of those will be given in future podcasts. So just to finish with, a shameless plug, I'm afraid. I talked briefly about undergraduate dental material science curriculum and the importance of integrating materials with their clinical training. But we recently set up a new master's course specifically for dental material science. This is in our new building, state-of-the-art research facility. So it's a research-led program which offers a coherent and focused course for understanding materials a little bit better. And it's available from anyone who is a practicing dentist currently, or dental technician, or those pursuing a career in related research. So we have both clinical and non-clinical students. Various modules that cover all aspects of the majority of materials that you find yourselves using in dentistry, and then also the importance of understanding biological interactions of these materials, and then looking more at emerging materials and related technologies. So the things that I was discussing in our research summary previously, and other very important fields that are up and coming, so additive manufacture and so forth. So if you are interested, then please give me a ring, or no, not on that number because I'm working from home, but please click that link below and I will receive that email. Thanks very much for listening.
It's absolutely lovely to get an update on things like that, and things that we may not be able to come across on a very regular basis. It was very hard trying to source someone to give us an update on dental materials, so I really appreciate the time that Will's taken to do this, as a lot of them are academics and they're very, very busy at the moment, especially with everything going on around the world at the moment and what's going on with the various universities and departments. So I really do appreciate him taking the time for this, and we'll join Will again tomorrow for part 2.